Hey folks, good morning. What's going on? We're going to be doing some artwork today, so give me a moment here for me to check in on my signal to make sure that we're coming through clearly, and then the social media posts. If you're already familiar with the channel, you can skip ahead a minute. Check. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. We'll drop that down there. If anyone has a problem with the volume mix, let me know between the background music and me speak-a-fating that yet. I can shift those, and I'll be done with this updating here in about a minute. So if you want to skip ahead, if you're catching this after the fact, go right ahead, and I'll see you after the bounce. But for folks that are trapped here and now with me in space-time, hey, I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and I publish them online. And we're creating an adventure for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition using the new 2024 rules. It's called Crystals of Mabar. It's for 7th, 8th level characters. We're fighting undead demons and necromancers in the Carnwood of Karnath on the continent of Corvair. And so this is the book cover that we created back around episode 40. We're currently up here on episode 612. So if you think this stuff is fun, hit like, subscribe, bell icon for notifications of when we're live in the future. And here's a stack of books that I've created on DMsGuild already that all have free previews. My Discord channel, be welcome to check all this stuff out if you're interested. And without further ado, hey, what's going on, Gabby? It's good to see you. Without further ado, let's just dive into today's mix. So we'll get rid of the book cover. We're making a roper. So a roper is I think it's an aberration that basically it has spider climb, so it can stick to walls and ceilings, and it has long tentacles that grab and reel you into its rock crushy chew face. And so we should finish this up this illustration today. It's 6:45. I've got about an hour this morning, so I'm gonna have to cut stream just a little early so that I can. I've got some early morning day job stuff that needs to be tended to. So we're going to be figuring out the rest of these tentacles today, and that should finish up the piece. So I anticipate achieving this goal within the next hour, and we'll see if that proves to be true. Let's see, I want to grab this tentacle here, and free movement. I'm going to stretch it out a smidge and give it a bit of a curve. And then we can take this one and sculpt that out a little bit, and then we can create a third. That feels a little too... Let's try like that. Ropers have a total of 6 tentacles. They can grow them back. You can cut them off, and when they stick to the ceiling, like in this adventure, the ceiling is 20 feet up. So if a roper grabs you and reels you into its face, and you cut your way free, you're going to fall and take falling damage for the privilege of not being eaten. So that's this is a fun monster. We were talking about it a little bit yesterday, but I really like ropers as monsters. They are super fun. I just want to thicken up this tentacle a little bit here. Last night, hey, what's up? Ropers on it, yeah. Are you doing well today? How do you come up with Eberron campaign ideas? I'm struggling to plot a campaign. I start off, okay, so when I think about a campaign, I anticipate it potentially running for levels 1 to 20. So that's always my starting point, and I only build out what I really need at the time. Like, I don't often have, well, let's say, how do I do? A campaign will be themed around either a concept or an event. So, like, for example, the current campaign that I'm running with my weekly home team is a Spelljammer Eberron campaign, and they are mining asteroids in orbit. And so I just basically we ran a full level 1 to 20 campaign in Eberron, and it finished last year. And as soon as it finished, they're like, we want to run another Eberron campaign. And I'm like, okay, great. Do you guys have any particular idea or theme that you're interested in? And they're like, well, you made your Spelljammer book, so why don't we do Spelljammer? And I'm like, okay, guys, let's play Eberron Spelljammer. So I could take the Spelljammer concept and convert it into airships, or I could stay true to Spelljammer and actually operate in wild space, which then has me looking at there's an asteroid belt, the Tears of Sybaris, that orbit Eberron like a moon. And so the idea was, well, let's go out and be space rock miners. And who would be naturally apt to do that sort of work? Well, Warforged, because they don't have to breathe, and dwarves, because dwarves love mining all sorts of stuff. So we created a campaign that's focusing on Warforged, dwarves, and then we added in gnomes for the trifecta. Dwarves, gnomes, and Warforged are the races that the characters can choose for their characters, and then they're overseeing the operations of an asteroid mining campaign, which has a number of episodic weekly adventures involving espionage of like spying on other organizations. Like Droam is in orbit, the elves are in orbit with Aranel, Sarlona is in orbit, the Dargoon are in orbit, and then there's a couple different, like House Cannith and House Leander are in orbit as well. So there's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 rival factions in orbit, and then there's the Characters Guild, which is basically like House Kadaric and Zalargo working together with the Warforged. So that's the idea. Like that's the motif. That's the frame of the campaign. Is they're working mining, they're overseeing mining operations to harvest precious minerals from space, to send them back down to Moorhold for smelting. So that's the theme of the campaign, and then from there, quote unquote, hilarity ensues. So from there, it's just a matter of like what kind of things could they encounter in space, what kind of conflicts can happen, and then I just churn them out one episode after the next without necessarily having any theme, like any overarching plot line. It's a slice of life, quote unquote, in that they're basically, we built the campaign, and the campaign already has internal challenges built into it. So as the characters go about resolving fires and like getting monsters out of the mine so that they can go mine the rock, or chasing off space pirates from stealing their ore, or like fending off a Droam invasion that's trying to poach your territories, space squids that will attack the mining camps. These are all different adventures that can happen, and as they go through these adventures, a plot just kind of develops as a result of the chaos of the campaign. Like at one point, they found a temple that was like buried in one of the rocks, and it held an angelic creature in it. And the angelic creature convinced the delvers to let it out, that it was imprisoned in the temple, and it convinced them, so they let it out, and it immediately fled. And then, as they spent more time exploring the facility with their researchers, they discovered that it was actually a prison, and that angel was actually an elder demon that had been trapped and put out in orbit so that it would never be able to mess with anybody. And fools of Atuk, they went in and they busted it free, and now it's out there conspiring. So now they're trying to track down what that angel, like what its origins were, and what its plans might be. And it looks like it used to be a Dalcor Greater Dream that is now hightailing it to Sarlona's orbital system. So they're concerned about the evil that they may have unleashed upon the world, and trying to figure out how can they neutralize it, like how could they sneak in and find it somehow. So that's becoming a plot that they developed as a result of the actions that they took. And an elder god, that was just something that I just randomed up. Like there's no way they're gonna let this thing out, but it'll be an interesting, like maybe they can come back and like use it as a sage to provide them with information that they tormented it or something. But nope, they let it out. So it's like, okay, well, we now have a new demon that's raging in the upper atmosphere. So Sarlona is going to gain from that, and everyone else will suffer somehow. So that now becomes a background thing that's happening as a pressure on the campaign, that if it continues to develop towards top tier like 5th tier of gameplay, like 17 to 20, that could become a boss that they'll end up needing to defeat to save the world or whatever. And that's still evolving. They're 10th level right now and still chugging their way through the campaign. And we'll see how it develops over the next, it'll probably take another year for us to finish the campaign overall. And we'll just see how it evolves. But it's basically like, slice of life type of stuff. That ends up, hold on. I see text on the wall. Let me catch up with you guys to make sure I'm not too far off in the weeds. Merge down. So, I plan on limiting races in Player's Handbook and Eberron book races. Cool. Medusas are in play. Nice. Yeah, my campaign is episodic. I mean, I've ran ongoing campaigns, but the way that this one is structured, it's very adventure of like Monster of the Week. There's always new rocks of asteroids that are being dug up, and we have a random table for what kind of minerals and like precious metals are inside of the asteroid to harvest. So they're picking and choosing which ones they think are the most, like if a complication arises. And it's like, say, in a rock with gold ore, they'll prioritize solving a problem involving gold ore before they resolve a problem with copper, for example. So if they don't resolve the problem involved with the copper, it will potentially escalate and become a bigger problem that even though the ore isn't really worth it, the threat to their guild community is. So they need to go resolve it so that their workers stay happy. They're not actually rolling dice to mine and stuff. That's just an ability check. Basically an ability check to prospect the rock, and then another using the bashing mechanics that we were streaming on last night. But that was just one campaign. Another campaign, hold on. I'd love to homebrew star squids. Yes, from Courage, the star squids are going extinct race of squids that make stars. They are people intelligent and make stars in the sky. Female is the last one of her kind that lays eggs that she needs to protect. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we have space krakens, which are basically space squids that are basically just like 100-foot kaiju squid creatures that fly around and eat stuff in space, and they love playing with spaceships and mecha and stuff when they come around. So that's a hazard the team has to look out for, getting played with by giant squids. But yeah, so episodic, and then when I run an episodic campaign, I let a overarching theme develop from the problems that they create. Because I can always make a big bad that wants to expand on harm and suffering in the world. So I kind of let the characters, the players decide what they think is important and interesting in the campaign, and then I lean into that. So another Eberron campaign that I ran was they all wanted to be Warforged that were trying to unite the different. There's a lot of like lost units. Like when a Warforged goes missing, they keep the humans or whatever kind of kept a casual tab on who was missing, who wasn't, but they didn't really care. It's not like they're people that are being killed, so they didn't care. But after the last war has ended, there's still all these unaccounted for Warforged. So the players wanted to play a team of basically Warforged unifiers that their overarching, like their mission statement was to find lost Warforged and help them decommission themselves from the war so that they can become part of a brewing Warforged nation. So they would hunt down like where they knew the last operations of a combat unit was. Like they're like in the mountain range between Thrain and Aundare, for instance. There's outposts, automated Warforged outposts that operated independently that were there to prevent any troops from trying to cross through the mountains. They would basically scout and snipe anybody who was out there, and they never got word that the war was over, so they're still operative. So when word came around that it looks like there's Warforged that are attacking people that are trying to explore the mountains, the team recognized that this was probably a still active Warforged bunker that needed to be basically hostage negotiated, calmed down to convince them that the war was over. And when they were successful, they would get access to the resources, materials that that unit or that platoon had access to. So they were accumulating Warforged troops. They were accumulating Warforged machines like Titans and other mecha weapons, and they were establishing different bases of operation where they would find these lost platoons of Warforged. And then while that continued to evolve, they started having flashes of a life that wasn't their own, and they slowly realized that all the Warforged souls that were making the machines go good were actually souls of dead artificers that were their own souls were then being recycled into the Warforged. So the soul machine that created Warforged would grab artificer souls and pull them back into the Warforged's body, and they'd forget who they were. But the team figured out a ritual that could help restore their memories, and then everybody that was Warforged are now, it turns out, lost Sirens. Like a sire got destroyed in the day of mourning, but so many sirens had already died as a result of the last war, and a patron, a warlock patron that they were that they cozied up to during the last war, it gave them the idea of the Warforged. So they started creating Warforged as per this greater demon's recommendation, and they didn't know that the greater demon was just recycling souls that basically made a pact with them. So it was recycling its own player character, like basically warlock souls that were like destroyed in the day of mourning. So we're now a rogue nation of automatons that claim to be from Sire, and there's more and more convincing stories coming from these Warforged, like, yeah, this is who I used to be. And they have to figure out how did they want to live their life. Well, in the end, the campaign ended up building to a point where they were actually fighting this demon that was capturing the souls of and recycling these Sirens into Warforged. So they ended up going to its own home pocket dimension in Shavaroth and killed it. And that freed and restored all the memories to all the Warforged. So the Siren nation was basically being reborn through the Warforged, which is why they ended up going into orbit in the next campaign. Or not, it was like 2 campaigns later we started doing the Asteroid Belt campaign. So it was like, well, we awoken all the Warforged, let's move forward in the timeline, and the way that they're figuring out how to regain their place in the world is by making use of the bodies that they had been cursed with, and they can operate in orbit. So let's go do that. So the Siren nation is actually working with the Kandari dwarves and the Zalargo gnomes to develop this space culture. And since they didn't have a place left on the planet for them because their nation was destroyed, it's now a radioactive waste. Let's go where the new frontier is at, so we can rebuild again. And so that was that's why we have this asteroid belt mining campaign going on with Awakened Warforged. But originally at the time, it was the process of awakening and gathering up their people into a nation. That was the drive of the campaign. Threshold, for example.
Hold on. Let me. I'm kind of leaving me all behind. The predators are space whales. Oh, that's fun. Kandori are cool. That episode makes me cry. I should just homebrew them and not wait for the day I run Spelljammer. Oh my god. Artificers.
Yeah. So they're either warlocks or artificer. Like the warlock patron was basically like a warlock artificer hybrid. So they were able to work both ways. You had actual artificers with the artificer class that was building stuff and mage rights and stuff that did the grunt work. And then it was the warlocks that ended up being the architects or the creators of these ideas that were inspired by the demon that they made a pact with. It would just feed them new magical plans. Hey, you can make this. You can make machine gun wands. Here, do that.
You can make mecha. Here's how to build a titan that crawls like a spider. In my Eberron, the docent, these little artificial intelligent marbles, are the actual soul, like bound into a little crystal, and you could plug that into a machine. And if it's a human-sized or like halfling-sized machine, that's a Warforged. But you could also take that node and plug it into like a 20-foot Titan, and now you have that crystal its identity is inside of that stone, but you can plug that stone into anything that can receive a docent. So like the pillboxes, like the bunkers that they would find in the mountains, there'd be like 3 or 4 artificers as soul stones just plugged into a bunker machine that allowed them to control force cannon turrets, control the opening and closing of doors, have automated sentries like helmed horrors and animated armor that the central intelligence of the bunker could control. So as the team went into a bunker, they'd have to fight mecha and turret cannons to break open the bunker, and then once they actually got in, they had to navigate their way to the central core. And so they have to defeat the traps and the sentries and the hazards that the AI would, or the Warforged, the docents would create or activate to fight the enemy. So when they do a dungeon delve, it was destroy as little as possible, disable as much as they can, and once you get to the core, reason with the docents that were controlling the facility to willingly surrender so that they could become part of the collective. They had spare bodies, so it's like you can get out of the wall and into an actual physical body again and be able to interact with us, and then that became a pool of NPCs that could replace characters if they died. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But that was just basically taking a theme or an idea and then building out various scenarios that would just logical stories and encounters and challenges that would just naturally kind of manifest from the type of adventure cues that they were picking up on and choosing to pursue. So starting at level 1, I just had this idea, we can just do some bunkers and stuff, and you'll start accumulating Warforged, and then it evolved into, we want to awaken. I didn't know the Warforged would be awakened until around level 7. When one of the characters is like, I think I'm actually a reborn soul. I want my character to be a reborn soul from Sire, and that's my background. Like I'm evolving I encourage my players to evolve their background during the campaigns, be kind of a blank slate in the beginning, that they could fill in the details as they go to curve their backstory to meet the story beats that they decide to pursue, so they don't have a plot. They don't have a background that contradicts, if you have a pre-made background and it doesn't jive with the direction of where the campaign is going, it's kind of wasted time, wasted effort, and you're not calibrating with like your predisposition, your assumptions about what the campaign might be aren't aligning with where the natural organic progress of the campaign is taking the team. So I encourage them to not have any maybe one sentence, like I used to be a soldier in the Warforged army, and now that I'm decommissioned, I have no purpose. Like that's a good starting nugget for a character to dive into a campaign about finding more Warforged. And then from there, they're like, I think we want to have memories, and then that evolved into one of them was a cleric of knowledge, coincidentally. So I started feeding them information and dreams that this is a lost life, and then that character became convinced and performed a ritual that we BS'd that would allow them to a ritual spell. It doesn't cost any mana or anything, but it was just a ritual spell that they could use to awaken the memories of a Warforged when they had an hour to sit down with them and meditate without them trying to kill them. So once you got a Warforged to be peaceful with you, you could perform the ritual to awaken their memories for them to remember who they were. And then they got to decide if they wanted to retain that personality, knowing what it was, if they wanted to share it or keep it to themselves. So there's a variety of Warforged that were ashamed of who they were in life or are proud of who they were in life and wanted to restore some sort of memory to that. So that became a whole option that they had to try to delve into politics along with that. And these are just different story arcs that are evolving from the decision that they made to have this idea. And that came in at 7th level, and I just assumed they were going to build a Warforged army, go into the Mournland, and take it over as their own. But now it's like, well, that used to be Sires, so that is totally a viable option. If everyone's claiming that they were Sirens at one point, and they want to reclaim their homeland, well, the homeland's now the Mournland, so the Warforged operate just fine out there. It's not toxic to them. So they can reclaim that territory, and now they have a purpose for doing it. It's like, yeah, we're trying to rebuild our lost nation. We don't know why it detonated. Well, it turns out in this storyline, the god of the machines, Cataract is what his name was. He was the god that was feeding the artificers these new incredible plans to create these fabulous machines. It actually caused the last morning, because it made an Eldritch machine and it lied about what it was. So when they built it and they activated it, it detonated the entire nation. So that god collected all the souls from the entire nation of Sire and became incredibly powerful as a demon. And that's what caused everyone, now it has infinite, like millions of souls or hundreds of thousands of souls that it can use as soul coins or resources to build new machines and to create a new army from. And so the entire nation basically got killed by a demon. And so now the team has a vengeance mission to go kill that demon. And they did. And when they did, they were able to free all the souls. But all the souls, so they were able to put all the souls, those that were able to transition or wanted to transition, became Warforged. And then they're like, well, we have to rebuild our nation. And then the Spelljammer thing happened. So now they're out in orbit with the dwarves. That's how that campaign evolved. At one point, they were working with Dargoon. The Dargoon nations were also trying to reunite, so they formed an alliance with the Dargoon to help reclaim. Like, they combined Dargoon with New Sire, the Mournlands, to create a larger nation. But that eventually fell apart. So now Dargoon and Orbit are not automatically allies with the Sirens that the players are in control of in this campaign. That alliance only lasted as long as everyone was able to claim their territory. Then it kind of fell apart. Which, alliances in war do that. So that was a really natural progression as well. Hey, what's up?
One of my Eberron characters, Solemn Tiefling, Abram marked Tiefling. She is a monk. Her monk hurts. Hey, Gabby. Her monk hurts her every moment. Oh, her mark hurts her every moment she's in pain. She adventures to afford her drugs to us.
Nice. See, yeah, that could develop into something if that was something that the DM wanted to run as a B plot for your character, right? It's just if you let your character's background be vague, then you can adapt it and mold it to the campaign, and where the players decide is fun, build your character to reinforce why you're engaging in whatever that adventure hook is. Like, you have the ability as a player to just make up background story about yourself with DM approval. Like, I want to fuse into I want my character to bend into the storyline so that we have more reasons to pursue these bandits or take over this keep or defend this village or whatever. Like, you can evolve your character's background to link in with and reveal things about your character's background as you go to complement that, to complement those ideas. And that's actually, I think, a better use of player agency to create backgrounds that cause them to fuse into the campaign that they're actually participating in. It gives them more emotional investment and more personal ownership, and it lets the DM offload a little bit of plot progression because the players are going to present options that you can then riff off of for 4 or 5 sessions to flesh out and then curve that into something else. So you want to start with a slice of life. Like, here's a little theme or idea that the players want, and you start with that at the beginning of the campaign and just naturally let different circumstances and complications arise that makes the initial simple concept more complicated with more trouble added to it as you proceed, so that whichever aspect of the campaign it is that you end up pursuing becomes their focus because they built it. You see? So you don't really have to worry about you also want to figure out what's the scope of your campaign.
like how long do you plan to have it run for? I always intend a campaign to run, unless I'm building like for example the mega dungeon that we did for playtesting martial powers. That was intentionally a level 3 to 10 campaign, just to be able to test that sweet spot of dungeon delving. And at the end of it, they're powerful enough that they can't really be confined by a dungeon anymore, so it becomes less relevant. So let's just end that. Let's end that playtesting there and move on to something else. And now we're building something new. But most of my in-game, like my home table campaigns, I always intend for them to be able to run from level 1 to 20. Start at level 1 and start building up. And by 5th level, there's been enough shenanigans going on that the team starts to have an inkling of an idea of like, what do they want this like, where are they going with this story? Where do they want this campaign to go? And they start having ideas and goals for themselves that then you as a DM start to create obstacles to achieving those goals, and rival NPC factions that might want the same thing that the players do. So now they're not necessarily enemies, but they're competing against similar objectives, for example, and that just kind of evolves itself logically, narratively into a larger story that the players have been sculpting with the decisions that they make about how they respond to the things in the current adventure. And that's all very, very vague, I know, but that's how I come up with it. So I only need a small slice. Like, for example, when we're done with the Spelljammer campaign, they're interested in Threshold. They want to be sheriffs in Threshold. So the team is going to be the deputies of the actual sheriff. So the sheriff will be their primary caregiver, will be their primary quest giver, and the team is a posse of deputies that have been hired to help keep law in the region, because as it continues to expand, there's more crime and danger in the area. So they needed additional personnel to help keep the peace. So that's the theme that the characters are going to go in the next campaign. Is we're going to be deputized as sheriffs in Threshold, and we're going to be dealing with the space between Brayland and Droam in that area as they try to bring out a lightning rail out to the area, and eventually they want to evolve it so that Threshold grows enough that it warrants having a teleportation circle, so they can become an official way station for supplies and Dragon Mark house activity. So I don't have to really worry about it. At first, I can have like bandits out in the wastes, and they're raiding coaches and the lightning rail production teams that are trying to build out rail into Droam. They're being raided by rogue parties of gargoyles and goblins, for instance. Those are who your bandits are initially. And so we'll start them at first level, keep them close to home, doing some Scooby-Doo investigation shit so they can start to vibe with each other, catch wind that there's these goblin gargoyle gangs that are out there raiding for supplies and money. And that evolves into, well, where are those gargoyles and goblins, where are they dropping all this material that they're stealing? It's got to be somewhere further into Droam. So is Droam sanctioning these raids, and so is this now a Sarkel issue that needs to be dealt with, or is this is it like a warlord that's trying to create its own resources so it can challenge rivals in the area to gain status and better territories as a warlord inside of Droam? Like, these are different plot points that will just naturally evolve from that initial nugget, and whatever direction it is that the team goes. They can amplify that, and there's going to be a gold mine and a Bieshk mine that are providing a boomtown resource for this place, that as the hub reason for Threshold to continue to expand. So now there's going to be people that are trying to steal gold from these shipments going back to Brayland or Droam, depending on which direction it goes. So Droam and Brayland are competing over these gold mines, so that becomes a potential angle of plot. Like if one of them is getting too aggressive in competition, delves too deep, cracks open a blood wound of Kyber that now spills out into the mines. Well, now there's now there's a beholder in the mine because you delved too deep into Kyber and you cracked it open, and this boiled out of it. So that becomes a plot point, a source of adventures for the team to potentially delve into Kyber with. So it all is kind of whatever direction the team wants to go, and you just lean in that direction and start building out more
points of interest and more interested NPCs that like are involved with whatever that scenario is that the players are diving into. So it just takes a life of its own, and you're just narrating the natural consequences of the players sticking their foot into somebody else's proposed territory and blah 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 blah. You know, it just kind of evolves from there. So I always just start off with a low level, fairly mundane idea, and depending on how the team chews on it, will evolve into what it evolves into. And generally, I don't do any combat in the first few levels of the characters. I just let them be in their relatively safe bastion area or their hometown, doing Scooby-Doo shit, social and investigation stuff with exploration challenges. And once they get in deep enough to find trouble, they'll from like level 1 to 3, that's when they start finding trouble. And then starting like level 4, like level 3 or 4, and then from then on, they can actually get into combat. So I keep them safe their first 2 or 3 levels, depending on how the game goes, so they have an opportunity to build rapport with the environment without being threatened by it. So you can start locking in the theme of the initial characters that are there, and let them just start building that point out. And hopefully this is making sense. Let's get that out of the way. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good curve here. Is this all making sense?
Hey, what's going on, Defected?
Good. So yeah, so if you're gonna start them at third level, and you could, first level lasts 1 adventure, second level lasts 2 adventures, and then third and every level after that requires 3. In my world, I don't use XP specifically unless unless the campaign. My default is not goalposts, not gaining XP, but time. So basically, if I'm going to run a level 1 to 20 campaign, I pace it so that the characters are going to gain a level basically every 3 or 4 sessions. So the first session, level 1 session, second level 2 sessions, third level 3 sessions, and then from there on out, it'll be either 3 or 4 sessions, just depending on how it paces. But the players know that I have basically a timer. So if they're like, yeah, we want to take on that Warlord's Fortress, but if we find something else to do for 6 episodes, we'll gain 2 levels and we'll feel confident that we can take on that fort. And then I, as a DM, can adjust their defenses to match whatever level it is that they're scaling up to. And if they're specifically telling me that they're holding off on it so they can get an advantage, then I might leave it at the same level, but then have that be a stepping stone into a bigger boss. It's like that was just a lookout post for the actual warlord that's franchising different fortresses in the region, and he's growing in power. So you're attacking like Sir Largo because you hate that guy, and you go to his fort and you take out Sir Largo. But Sir Largo was a vassal to Sir Bigger, and so now you have to go chase down Sir Bigger, and because he's a bigger warlord than Sir Largo was, right? And you beat Sir Bigger, and he leads you to Lord Gargantua, and then you have to take him out, who might be like have the ear of one of the sisters of Corel, of Sorakel, for instance. It's like that's how you can cascade and scale up a threat. It's always a stepping stone to a bigger bad. There's always somebody that's funding somebody. So if you find a supervillain, he's got backers that are supporting him that expect some sort of gain, either religious zealous or profit, like money profits that are money bagging the current big bad, and it keeps cascading upward to bigger and bigger bads. So if you're starting, you could just start in raw at third level just to go bang. But if you wanted to take an extra 3 episodes to cement them into place, start them in Threshold and keep them in Threshold without any physical harm. Just get them investigating things that are based around the theme of their characters, and let them just build up story around their PCs, backstories and stuff over a couple levels, so they can kind of lock themselves in emotionally to what this place is. And then once they hit third level, start leading them into
into danger that aligns with the ideas that they thought were cool during the first 3 levels. You see how that kind of rolls together for itself? So that's the basic template of how I can successfully build and run a campaign from level 1 to 20 with 100% retention. So like I've ran 3 campaigns from level 1 to 20 in 5e, and in each one of them there was always a core of 3 players that were absolutely locked in, showing up every week, unless weird circumstances arose. But it was a rock. They've always been rock solid campaigns. And then like if we need more people, like I can run a campaign comfortably with 3 people. But if they want a 4th person, because it's like, hey, it'd be great to have a 4th person, we'll recruit somebody at that given level. But once you get past level 10, it's really hard to recruit people because there's so much in-story and background that they aren't aware of. They always feel like an outsider. And it's rare that you can get somebody to stick like that. If you start at level 1, your window to invite new people in starts closing around level 7. Because there's so much backstory built up. No one wants to read all that shit. And there's going to be so many internal, like self-referencing things going on that it's really difficult for a new player to latch onto it. So by reconstructing a campaign to be episodic, it makes it easier for new players or replacement characters to drop in. So I've started over that time, I've learned to develop campaigns to be episodic, so that there's all sorts of natural insert points for new players or new characters if a character gets killed. Apparently that's the end of that transmission. Hopefully that's giving you some ideas about how you can frame the campaign, even if you don't have a specific idea about what the particular adventures will be. That helps build out, like I said, like a stable framework that you can build any number of levels on. So like if you're running like level 3 to 12,
milestones. You like milestones?
Yeah. I'm okay with milestones, except if my team tends to tangent a lot. So like any new shiny object that pops up, they'll immediately switch over and start paying attention to that, neglecting other plot points. So my team, if I go with milestones, they end up having like 4 or 5 different subplots going on at the same time, and none of them, they aren't resolving any of them, so they aren't gaining any levels. Like I've had instances where they'll be 8th level and they'll have 4 open prompts that if you can complete them, they'll gain a level with each one of them. And so at some point, like maybe they'll dig through 3 adventures and they'll finally resolve 1 plot and they get to 9th level. And then they line up a whole bunch of other things that just basically knock down like one session after the next. They're gaining levels. So they could pop from level 8 to level 12 over the course of like seven sessions. That's too fast. And so if I use milestones, and like you'll gain a level if you complete, like the way that I would do milestones was, if you complete this quest, you'll gain a level. Or if you create a quest that your characters want to pursue independently, I will build it out so it's worth a level that when you complete it, there you go. But their attention span would scatter, like I was saying. So they'd end up having all these loose ends laying around that don't get resolved. So they create these pockets of, we've been level 8 for 15 sessions, and then they have 6 sessions, they go from 8 to 12. And it's unnatural pacing. And so my solution to that was, well, if I want the campaign to actually pace out, I'm going to have them automatically gain levels every 3 or 4 sessions like I was talking about. And now they can actually meta. They can actually fuck around with their own timeline. Like, we're going to do side quests and bullshit so that we can gain a level to take on this threat later on. And then I just start layering in appropriate level threats to where they're at right now. And it just becomes more, to me, that becomes actually, by contriving when you're going to gain levels, I actually think the narrative becomes more organic. Because they know they're going to gain levels. It's just how do they want to spend their time gaining those levels? And I always include threats and challenges and open up new plot lines for them to pursue to gain their next level. So, but I mean, you could do it with XP points and you can do it with milestones, but that's just my own personal observations
and how I adapted my DMing style to work with the team that was willing to show up with me every week that I enjoyed playing with. So my DMing style is very much evolved as a result of the playing style and the meta that the players created as a result of it. So there's no wrong way to play D&D, but you need to understand why you choose the things that you choose, and are they complementing the style that your players have evolved into. So I've ran all three of them. I've ran XP in D&D 5e. I've ran a number of milestones in D&D 5e, and now I got into timed leveling. But like in the mega dungeon that we ran from level 3 to 10, that was XP, and they only got XP from gold extracted from the dungeon. So each gold piece that they threw away and didn't make use of became a point of experience points that the team got to share. So if they needed 6,000 experience points for the 4 of them to get to 4th level, and they got 7,000 gold extracted from the dungeon, they could throw away 6,000 gold of it, keep 1,000 gold of it, and then gain a level to level 5. So, and we ran that from level 3 to 10. They go into the dungeon, they extract wealth from it, they go back to town, they level up, they come back, the dungeon's repopulated, and then they go back in, they push in deeper, get new stuff, extract that, rinse, repeat 7 times. And that's how we ran that campaign. That campaign ran for about 6 months. That was a lot of fun. But it was also great playtesting because they would stay at the same level. Like, they would have some sessions, like they were level 5 for like 6 sessions. Because that's how long it took them to delve deep enough to extract enough wealth to gain 6th level. Plus, enough magic stuff that they had new loot to expand their characters' abilities. So that was XP via gold, not XP via killing monsters. Which is its own vibe. That one feels good. This one feels good. This is the only one that's left that needs fixing. So let's get these out of the way, and we'll fix this one. And this will be our last tentacle, and then we can do some texturing, and this guy will be done. I have to stop early today. Actually, I'm in my last. I only have about 15 minutes left. I have an 8 o'clock meeting that I can't be late to, so I can't afford to stop at 7:50 something, and then casually dive back into casually, strolling to work. I have to kick out of here early and be ready to work at 8 a.m. So I'm going to cut early here. I've got about 15 minutes left. And that'll be it for today. But I do streaming artwork like this Monday through Friday. And for those that are new to the channel, hi. I do streaming Monday through Friday in the mornings like this, where I do artwork and philosophize about game mechanics and how to run campaigns and shit like this. And then on Mondays and Thursday nights like last night, and Saturday mornings like tomorrow, I do game design. On Mondays and Thursday nights, we do Bastion mechanics and develop the Spelljammer Eberron campaign that I'm going to be running as a playtest campaign for my Kaiju mecha mechanics for Spelljammer. And then on Saturday morning, I do game design for the Color Mana Spellpoint variant rules for Magic the Gathering as D&D. And so tomorrow morning, we're going to be looking at the official versions of the Artificer subclasses to see if how they've evolved and what do we need to change with our mana mechanics for those subclasses to work properly. And so we'll be spending that time tomorrow morning. That's at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, California, Seattle time. So Monday night, Thursday night, and then Saturday morning, I do game design for a few hours, and then Monday through Friday in the morning like this, typically for about an hour and a half ish. I do art for whatever the next book is that I'm going to publish, and in that instance, it's Eberron. So here's that format. It's the 16 by 9 fit. The actual page is 10 by 17, so it's a double. Each page is a double spread, but it's broken into 3 columns. that are also 16 by 9, 5.5 inches wide, 9 inches tall of active text area inside of each of these. And so on a device, you could look at a single page at a time horizontally, either on a widescreen monitor, on your phone, or on a tablet. And then you can turn it sideways vertically. Once it's a PDF, you can align it vertically to look at one column at a time. And the entire book has these navigation buttons at the bottom that take you to different, like the different parts of the adventure. And each part of the adventure has like a map that then you can click on the different rooms or regions on the map, and those will bounce you to the page that you need. So like if there's a roper in one of the caverns in the dungeon, when you look at that dungeon map in that section, you can click on the cavern where the roper is at. It'll take you to that segment of the map specifically and provide you all the details of the adventure. And then it'll have roper in bold. You can click roper, it'll take you to this page. And then you can take this page and navigate this button down here. Like part 3 is where the roper is at. So if you click part 3, that'll bounce you back to the cavern map where the roper is located at. You can then click again and dive back in. Now that you have the stats for the roper, you can delve back in. So I typically would recommend keeping 2 instances of the document open. One for the back end where the monsters are located, and then the other one where you can travel with the players from page to page through the dungeon. So PDFs are really cool that you can do those type of mechanical effects. And I like building them. So I'm really looking forward to having this adventure finished. And we're doing the last, they have like, after this roper, we have 4 revision. We have 1 actual illustration left, and then 3 others that just need to be revised. So I'm thinking that all the actual illustrations for all this stuff will probably be finished by December 22nd. And then we have some page fillers that we need to do. Like gaps at the bottom. These gaps are too small, but we have instances where there's gaps like this big at the bottom of a page, which is damn near big enough for its own illustration. But we want to fill in some sort of sketch of something. And we got about, I think, 9 or 10 little corner pieces that need to have some sort of texture or random like item illustration or some sort of little nugget. And so I'll be on vacation for my day job starting on December 22nd through January 1st. So I'll go back to work on January 2nd. So with any hope and luck, during that 2-week vacation, I'm just doing a staycation. So I'll be able to stream in the morning, potentially like 3 or 4 hours in the morning, and then I can spend the rest of my day doing building all the links and the click through stuff on my book from like say 10 o'clock till 5, and then go back to my normal life in the evenings. So I should, with God's grace, have a good 6 or 7 hours every day during that time to do inside of the Word program, and finishing out the last little illustrations that I can then just drop into the book when they get finished. So if everything goes well, I'm thinking right now, it feels like the energy of this is that it'll be done and actually published on the DMsGuild maybe by Tuesday the 6th. That's kind of the date that I'm targeting for. That's the thought, because I'll be out of office through Thursday the 1st, and I'll actually be back at work on Friday the 2nd. No, I'm off on the 2nd because it's Friday. So I'm having the 22nd through the 2nd, and then I have the long weekend, and then I'll actually be back at work full time again on the 5th. And so I'm thinking the 5th or the 6th, maybe the 7th. This week is where I intend to have the adventure completed. So, and then at that point, we'll switch to something completely different, and the entire channel will change energy to building something else. Like a year ago, we were doing the Spelljammer stuff. We were doing Spelljammer artwork in the mornings, and we were doing Eberron stuff on the side. But we were also doing like page layouts and stuff for the Spelljammer book that we published. So I actually kind of put this whole Eberron adventure on hold for about a year while I built out the Spelljammer book. So this should have been published a year ago. But then, like I said, Spelljammer became a thing. So it's like, well, I want to build my Spelljammer book now that it's hot. So let's do that. And so that became my priority. And now that that book was completed, we came back here, and now we've been finishing out all the assets for this Eberron adventure. Once we finish this, we've got the Bashing campaign that we need to build, and we're updating the color mana spell point variant rules for Magic the Gathering in D&D. We're revising. Those are already published on the DMsGuild, but now that we have the 2024 rules, I wanted to update all the class options to jive with the color mana system, because 2024 is just better. It just is. And there's so much more we can do with it. The martial power system to give martials a mana system, barbarians, fighters, monks, rogues, as well as giving the half-casters access to this martial power system so that half-casters can do both spell casting and martial powers. And martials can only do martial powers, and full casters can only do spell casting. And unless you multi-class, then you can spread across both legs. But all characters use the same type of mana pool. So as you multi-class, you're continuing to build up your mana pool, but you're getting access to different powers or spells that you can spend your mana on, depending on if you want to be a pure caster, a pure martial, a half caster, or a multi-class Gish hybrid. You can have all those options and they all work together. So it's really fun. It's really, really great. And that's what I would like to have seen Wizards of the Coast do. If I ran Wizards of the Coast, what I'm literally doing here on screen and building with you guys is how I would utilize their billions of resources to build. Like, I'd probably still want to come on stream and build concepts and stuff like that. But God, that'd be awesome. Like the lead developer of D&D comes on and does like a daily art jam and does a daily game design. Like, hey, here's where we're planning on taking Bastions in 2027, and build out how these mechanics work with you guys, and get feedback and talk shit with people that are playing the game. Like that's how I would run D&D if I was found myself as the lead designer. I would still stream for 2 hours in the morning before I actually began my day job, but then be able to drop in. It's like, hey, here's mechanics that we're building. If you want to get invested with this, start looking towards design now, because we're going to have this roll out in February or whatever. I think that would actually be a really cool way to run the game, and I don't know if it would maximize profits, but I know it would maximize player investment. But hey, that's just me running D&D. Like if I ran WotC, that's how I would do it. Which is why I would never run WotC, because that's not what high rank officers in a corporation. That's not how they operate. So I would be ill suited to the task. My day is almost done. I have to bounce out of here early for a very early corporate meeting at my day job. It starts at 8 o'clock, so I have to be ready, Freddy. So yeah, I've got about 5 minutes left, and I think we just finished all of the tentacles. Yeah, tentacles officially look pretty good now. Let's see. What I want to do is take this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm going to add all of these into a group, and then I can put a mask on the background so they don't get in the way. Second thought. Let's push this one to the foreground. Curve this in here like that. And then let's take this one. Here. Am I missing something? Yeah, no kidding, right?
Not make more money off of settings that I'm not gonna make use of.
Yeah, like I'd love to see Mystara be allowed on DM's Guild. I know that Mr. Welsh would absolutely die for that. Yeah, they're hoarding IPs. I think it's just I don't like corporations having control of creative IPs. I don't think corporations are by nature heartless money machines. They have a mandate that they are required to maximize profits. That is the rule that goes behind publicly traded companies. So they're not going to make decisions what's best for the art or best for the fan base. It's going to be how can we maximize profits despite or in retaliation to the fan base. Like they'll destroy their own fan base to make money, and they're required to do so. It's horrible. It's horrible. Corporations should never be in charge of artistic endeavors. But the entire movie industry is built around that idea, which is why we get such bullshit movies, because they don't let individuals produce stuff. It's too much now. A quiet moment while I fuck around with a tentacle. Nope. Reel that in, Kearney. Thank you. All right, I'm pretty happy with how that is. And there's my timer. I gotta go. I didn't get the texturing done, so maybe I'll probably finish this over the weekend. We'll just start something new. But this is pretty good. So I'm happy with where it's at. I want to do some texturing on the rock to make it look more rugged and camouflage, and then define its mouth a little bit more cleanly. But I'm pretty happy with how that thing looks overall. This is a good page. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this down. I'm going to kick out of here. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning to work on the Artificer subclasses, converting those into the color mana paradigm that we have published on DM's Guild. And we'll be able to sally forth from there. Not using birthright, why not make fans make money? Yeah, exactly. And it's not like if you decided to do something on your own, it's not like you're stealing the stuff. You own the fucking thing. Like anything that you publish on DM's Guild, WotC technically has rights to, because that's part of the contract of being on the DM's Guild. And I don't care, because there's plenty of stuff that I could do independently. If I wanted to make my own 5e campaign, I could. And I have all the resources and stuff, and the ability and the attention to be able to actually do that. And someday maybe I will. But until then, I'm still geeking out as a fanboy, as my 16-year-old self playing Spelljammer box set for the first time back in 1990 or whatever. It's been a lifelong dream for me to build stuff for that, and now I've got the quality of art and the skill set for creating and being able to DM well enough to actually be able to fulfill that dream, and I'm loving it. So I don't mind giving my stuff, quote unquote, giving my stuff to the DM's Guild for me to make money with, because it's just a stepping stone for me to evolve into whatever it is I'm supposed to be. So I'm really thrilled. I'm happy to do it, and I'm eventually going to run out of stuff I want to do on the DM's Guild with D&D IP. I'll eventually branch out and do my own thing, and make Kickstarters out of it at that point. But that's not for another couple years. I've still got a couple years of DM's Guild stuff to do. But I'm thinking towards the tail end of 2027, 2028, I'll start expanding and looking in different directions. So, but that's it for now, guys. I'm going to bounce out of here. I will be back tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Seattle time. Pacific Standard Time, -8 UTC to begin anew. If you think this stuff is cool, I'll be back on Monday to do more artwork, and we're always doing artwork Monday through Fridays in the mornings, and we're always doing game design Monday, Thursday nights, and Saturday mornings. So I'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot for being here, and bye.